Hey everybody, welcome to the bench. So today I'm working with the old Signet 33 Skulls amp that I did a video on previously. And I was just playing through this amp and it doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound up to par with the way my builds are sounding now, as far as like, you know, the way this thing kind of responds. I don't know, it's just not, it's not doing it for me now. All of a sudden, what once was doing it for me is now not doing it for me. So I thought I might make a little video about pulling this thing apart and maybe redoing it with some other kind of a build. And you see, when I open this thing up, I certainly wasn't using any kind of a layout. And so that's the kind of the one thing about this amp, that is it's severely lacking in any type of layout, and it just doesn't sound as good as it could. And so I thought I might take the time to screw around with these freaking So we're gonna pull the tubes out and we're gonna get underneath the hood of this thing, lift up the skirt, as I like to say, and we're gonna check it out. Oh my gosh. Okay, finally. I had some Sylvanias in there. Looks like I had some JJs. Just gonna go ahead and pull these out. There's a Mullard. There's a little bit of sloppy sockets going on, but not too bad. And another JJ. So stand by. These little bear trap tube holders are interesting. I call them bear traps because they kind of just clamp down on the side of the tube. And so I don't know if I like those too much or not, but it's a little dusty. And these are the same transformers that I use in my other amp. I borrowed them from a different Signet 33. And for a long time I had a big love for Stromberg-Carlson amps, just kind of what they were and just the vintageness of them. So now I got the tubes out, I'm gonna go ahead and put the top back on so we can flip this thing over. Okay, lid's off. Oh boy, what do we got here? It's quite the nest. I'm just looking for the mouse that lives in here. Haha. We've come a long way, baby. So, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and shoot a little video. We're going to gut this thing out, and we're going to redo it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and use the... if I can find it. I'm going to go ahead and use the Friedman. I got so many schematics, so little time. We're gonna do the Dirty Shirley. So you may have seen this online somewhere. It's around here somewhere. Oh, right here. This one. Somebody deconstructed a Dirty Shirley, and this appears to just look like the preamp section. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot. I know I've talked about it before, but this amp was kind of set up in a Marshall-esque kind of way. At least that's what I was going with as far as the values were concerned in the preamp and such. Excuse me. But it was cathode biased, and you know, it's got definitely some different things going on than a Marshall would, that would keep it from sounding exactly like a Marshall. Though I said, you know, Stromberg-Carlson to a Marshall, it wasn't exactly accurate. But I was just doing the best I could for the time I had. You know, I basically wired this thing up like a Marshall in the preamp section. But now I'm going to do this a lot cleaner. I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a turret going in here, or two, probably just one. There's not a lot going on in a Marshall compared to maybe say a Soldano, but I think this should probably get us where we want to be, and we'll have fun going through here and redesigning this amp. Oh man, the corner is sharp. And so in the meantime, we're just going to kind of go through here and pull these. First thing I need to do, since I was just playing on it, didn't realize, I'm lucky I didn't shock my stuff, is that, yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started dismantling this, and we'll get the soldering iron fired up. I did power it down, or de-energized the caps. So a couple of key things on my bench: these little platypus pliers, these flat tip mini pliers, and these little mini tip cutters. These are two key items on my bench right here. They are always in my hand. And let me find my eyeballs. And we're just going to go ahead and start with what I got on here. I had this heat dissipator, or whatever the heck you call these things. Anyways, we're just going to keep this rectifier like it was, like it is. Pull this stuff out. I'd rather just cut it out than try and heat it up. And I find sometimes it's if you're going to do this type of stuff, it's easier just to cut rather than use your soldering iron to undo all the connections. You just create unnecessary heating and stuff in here when you do that. Yeah, we're going to reuse some of this stuff and not other parts of it. You know. Make sure I give myself enough to reuse this cap. And that's another thing about these skinny little turret boards. When you go ahead and start populating this turret board, you end up, you know, cutting your items way down to fit in this little tiny spot. And then later on, if you go and you take them out, or you decide not to use a particular value or something and you have to take them out, you're just kind of left with little nubbits of capacitors and resistors, and it's not very fun to try and reuse them again. And so that's one thing about this, is that when you have to pull your your things back out, you're not left with much. So we're just gonna kind of go through here and quickly just kind of pull what we can save. Pull and save. Right? Spiderweb grounding. Who knows what the heck I was doing in here. Ay, ay, ay. I see tons of stuff that I would not do in an amp build now. But that's how it is. I'm just gonna pop all these bubblegum welds off. I used painter's caulk to get these things solidified in. It's kind of silly. Sometimes you gotta pry it out. Sure these caps are still good. 47s. 30s. The output transformer leads. Get this stuff to come out. Not hurt anything. All right. We're still gonna go ahead and cut this stuff off. I want to clean it up later. I don't think it's gonna sit like this in the end. Cathode bias resistor. Some ground wires coming off here that need to be dealt with. Cathode bias bypass cap. Heater wires here. I want to go through and redo all of these, connect these. They should not be left exposed like that. You should always have heat shrink over the tops of the AC exposed. If you can, I think, you know, realistically, everything should try to be kept from being exposed if possible. But so we got some stuff going on here. We're gonna try and clean house a little bit. Pretty messy. I remember spending a lot of time on this amp. I had my face in this amp for quite a while. A lot of these amps. I mean, can't say that I know very much right now, but what I do know is just from having my face planted inside these amps. And just getting to know what's going on, what's this mean. Spent a lot of time watching the Guitologist because he did a lot of conversions and he worked with some Stromberg-Carlsons. And so, you know, Brad the guitarist was one of the first places to kind of, for me to turn to, because I was doing the same things, the AO-35 conversion and converting the bogans, and we'll clean this up and see what we can salvage out of it. I'm pretty sure these caps are just fine. Just fine. Okay. No wonder this thing squealed when I first started it up, man. These wires are flying everywhere. This baby was a squealer too. But I learned quick. How to not build a squealer. I had a friend in high school who was in a band called Squealer. I always thought that was a funny name for a band, but they were pretty cool. I ended up becoming friends with guys in Squealer. And they were actually pretty big in the Denver scene. Shit, back in the mid-'80s. Squealer was kind of dominating some of the areas of Denver. And, you know, back in the day when I was first starting out, there was a lot of competition in Denver, musicians and bands, and bands were just fighting to get slots for opening gigs, and you know, some guys had it, some people didn't. Some guys had the luck, some guys had the talent. But for me, I got to start playing early on. I was playing in bars before I was 21, and I had to get work permits and things like that sometimes in some of the bars. Not all of them, but some of the bars made me get a permit. Some of them would make me be escorted out of the bar as soon as I was done playing. They would watch me gather up all my gear, and I'd have to make a break for the back door. And it was always kind of strange, but there was always a little bit of an attention drawn to it. It seemed like at the show, whenever that happened or something, and it was like I had to get out, there was always like a little bit of a commotion or something about it somehow, and people were always watching, and it kind of boosted my ego a little bit as a young guy. I thought, you know, these guys are looking at me getting kicked out of the bar because I'm underage, and here I am rocking bars before I'm even 21. So when I turned 21, I didn't really even want to go out to the bar like a lot of people do. I just was into more staying at home. At the time I had played so many bars before the time I was 21. Playing out didn't matter. Or going out on my 21st birthday didn't matter. So, but, and then not a year later, we were playing at Mile High Stadium when I was 22. I always considered that to be a really neat accomplishment. A little feather in my cap that I played a stadium gig when I was 22 years old. And I'll always remember it. I'll always keep it dear in my heart. I hung out with Doug Pinnick from King's X down in the bowels of Mile High Stadium. And we smoked a big, fat joint together. And he told us all about what it was like to be signed. And that it really sucked being signed. And that your whole life was in debt to the record label. And we just stood there kind of looking at him wide-eyed, stony, like, you know, because that's all we wanted. We just wanted to get signed, man. Everybody wanted to get signed. You know, who was going to get signed? You know, let's get signed. And the guy, he was telling us, you don't want to be signed, man. But, you know, we were too young and hungry to even, you know, to care too much about it. We were on our way up at the time. definitely on our way up at the time. And then a wonderful album called Smells Like Teen Spirit came out. And suddenly metal bands became kind of a joke, didn't they? People thought that singers with high voices and stuff were kind of stupid now, where bands were doing cool high vocals where the singer was actually singing and had a range and actually a sense of melody, instead of today's singers who are, you know, I mean, I like that stuff too to a point, but anyways, I digress. Oh, what a mess I made down here, you guys. Oh my goodness, there's gonna have to be some, I need a solder sucker, what I need. Because this stuff is messy. Messy. I'm gonna get some decent caps out of this thing. Oh, what do we got here? We got a 68. Cool. See, you can tell I was using some Marshall volumes. Ooh, this thing's coming out. Alright, I'm gonna have to use this. Alright, first thing I'm gonna do is clean up on this one. A lot of crap floating around on these. A lot of times I see people working on their amps with the tubes still in them. And I always wonder, is that bad for your amp? Is that bad for the tube for you to be soldering the pin that is attached to the tube? I see people do it all the time online. And I was always kind of wondering at first, when I first got started, and I just used my best intuition, is that take the tube out, man. I mean, you know, the extreme temperatures of the soldering iron you can't be doing anything good for the tube itself. So, oof, these are messy, man. Oh, they're getting down deep in there too. All right, so we're gonna get these kind of cleaned up and get started for the next phase. Next little build we're gonna do, since I'm in between a personal build right now, and I want to get started on another amp, but something's telling me just chill out. You got learning to do, you got other stuff to work on. Don't have to just keep building one amp after another. Not to mention it gets a little expensive. Everybody in the family's like, oh, you're building another amp and you can sell the ones you got. Truth is, I don't know anybody want to buy my amps. I just make them for fun. Make them because I want to. So I got a big group of amps to play through when I want to. And, you know, I just enjoy the tinkering. I just enjoy doing this kind of stuff, getting down with the soldering iron, going through, cleaning these things out. And yikes. Whew. Anyways, so it's hard for me to go through and look at these amps like this that are just kind of more point to point, like I was doing you know, before I learned how to do layouts from Andy. And I learned my layout technique from YDNA, or at least it's where I started copping a clue, or figuring out that layout is pretty important, and here's how you kind of do it. And You know, Andy's really good at doing layouts. Everybody that's seen his work knows his layouts are just spot on, man. And that's not easy to do because your layouts require a lot of forward thinking. You don't just start assembling the amp. You really have to know where you're going to be putting things and where in the end you're going to rest for this and that. Because if you put something in a weird spot in the amp and then later on you have to try and go and tie something to that, you end up having to run an incredibly long wire run, or it just turns into something stupid where it's just an antenna maker. And so you don't want to. You want to know ahead of time. You want to think ahead of time. You want to have your layout ready to go, because if you just do what I've done in the past and just start laying it out as you go, and just say, okay, I'm going to feel this out, man. I'm going to flesh this out, how it kind of goes and feels. And sure, yeah, it feels right. It feels good. You go for a long time, but then in the end, you're trying to run your negative feedback and you're trying to do other stuff, and nothing's working out because you just ran some incredibly stupid freaking layout stuff. And maybe you get lazy, or you just, you know, you don't want to do the diligence required to make it a really good, what I call fortified build. You know, it's going to last, and it's going to take a bump or two and still keep working, you know. So you got to say that is one of the things about PCB amps, is that, you know, they stay in place. They don't get jostled around too bad. You know exactly where everything's at. So there is something about PCB. There are some qualities about it, and I think people dog on it a lot, but it does have some value. I can see that. I can see that, you know, having the circuits cleanly isolated from each other in that type of way, you know, can keep it a little bit more durable, or, you know, less likely to oscillate because everything's laid out in a way that's separated as it should be. You don't have wires coming in at each other or doing anything weird because the guy who assembled the amp was trying to make shortcuts, or you know, maybe he's just a do-it-yourselfer like me who does a lot of silly things and tries a lot of silly things, and, you know, that's how I learned, man. I didn't want to start building by numbers kit amps. That wasn't for me, man. I wanted to get my hands dirty and shock my shit and figure it out, man. Get into it, plug it in, figure it out. So we're starting to get somewhere here. Some of these I'm just gonna go ahead and leave, but it's tone stack. Got this. These output. Okay, I'm gonna leave some of this stuff for now. What the heck was I thinking? Okay, yeah, so we're gonna solder these. I'm gonna put a thermistor in here as well, so let's just get this pulled out, shall we? All right, it ain't pretty, but it's out. Okay. The heck. Okay. You know, it's always a little bit bittersweet when I got to do this because, man, I spent a lot of time with my head in this amp. Weeks and weeks doing what I wanted to do to this thing. And just all rip it out in a matter of minutes. But all in the name of progress, right? I mean, the amp wasn't working like as good as I know I could have it. And then why keep it like that? Out of some kind of funny nostalgia. Oh, this is like one of the first amps I did. No, I don't want to do that. I'd rather be able to use it. Damn, that hurt. There is some bubblegum welds in here, boy. Woo! Some serious piles of freaking solder. My goodness, man. My goodness. Stinks, man. This old solder on here smells like, I don't know what it smells. It smells like cottage cheese or something. Blah. It's not good. Boy, I sure wound these heaters up tight, didn't I? And they're just a little too close. They're just a little too close, aren't they? You know, I think maybe we should just go ahead and plan on redoing the heaters as well. I mean, I'm totally notorious for making these just way too tight. And looking at it now, it's same old. So we're gonna pull these out. They are messy. Ooh, jeez. I don't know if this was from me or from previous builders or people that have worked in this amp before. I don't know that anybody else worked in this amp before me. I don't remember. I don't recall this amp having a bunch of work done to it when I bought it. Usually I like to buy them with nothing done to them, so I get to have my way with them. I didn't ever want to buy a already converted PA head. I mean, maybe some people like to do that, but the fun of it for me was converting it, right? I mean, it was learning how to do an amp. Learning how to build, man. Oh my God, what a mess. There's some really messy stuff in here, man. Oh my goodness. That tube I put in there myself. You can tell because it's a newer tube. We're just gonna gut this amp completely at this point, man, and just start freaking over. Breathing all this freaking crappity crap in. Taking years off my life. Frickin' frackety. Oof. Man, what a mess. I don't think this was for me. But boy, these are just some really funky pins and stuff. I do need a solder sucker, man. This is just way too much goop coming off of these things. It's not making it worse. Yeah. They're just really funky. Each one of them, man, is just, it's just horrible, man. I should just replace them all. Start over again. Just ridiculous. Alright. Now we're starting to get somewhere here. Pull this stuff out. Stop for a second. Oops. Take a little break. Alright. Got our heaters, power supply. Whew, that smell. Oh, I hate that smell, man. I don't know what, if it's just like old leaded solder. Probably is. I'm probably sucking up a bunch of lead. Yeah, not good. No bueno. Okay. Let's do this. This stuff is worth keeping, but keep a clean workbench. I hate it when I got stuff everywhere. I like to keep things clean, keep the room looking nice. I like to keep it smelling good. I burn incense in here from time to time. Keep the vibe light, right? Nag Champa? Anybody? Probably set off my smoke detector. Ooh, the smell of that solder coming off. Okay. So, anyways. So let's kind of dig through what we got here. See what we can see. All right. Looks like we still got some caps that are gonna work. Tried to keep the leads long. The caps of value, you know, these Sozo caps and stuff, they're perfectly good caps, obviously. I'm not going to throw them away. Mallory. There's a mod. Some of this stuff can still be used, obviously. I'll test them and reuse them. If the leads are so short you can't reuse them, then you can't reuse them, but you know, that's still good. There's a 39K. Another 100K. There's a little heater tap. Yeah, a lot of these are still in. Try not to use bathtub resistors anymore if I can. I've been trying to order the better ones. I've been trying to order these style. These kind instead of these kind. So but they're, you know, they're there if you need them. You know, if you need something while you're working, or you gotta have something, they're perfectly fine. But if you were gonna build a quality build, I don't know that a lot of people go with those. Guess it just depends, huh? Some 10Ks, 4.7K. This looks like the end of a long tail pair. I'm guessing this is an 01 cap. It's a 104K. So, or a 0.1. Yep. These up. I'll just put it back in there for now. All right. Cooling fins. When I was thinking cooling fins were going to cool off my bathtub resistor inside my amp. Ooh, great idea. Hey, I guess, you know, in theory, why not? It can work. Heck. There's some red wire. I'm probably not going to throw away too quickly. Use that. I can always reuse wire. I try to reuse wire if I can, so I don't throw so much of it away. I like the old style tubing that you can get out of these old amps. You can get the really, really old school style insulation. And so whenever I was doing any of these conversions, I always tried to rob the little pieces of insulation from the wires and stuff to use on the build or on the conversion. I just take the little bits and pieces of the wire covering and reuse it. So a lot of this stuff I'm definitely going to reuse. I mean, yeah, they're getting smaller and smaller, but heck, why not? I mean, like, if I can find this place to use it, then by all means. As long as they still work. So, all right, so let's see what we can save out of this. Boy, I wound the crap out of these heater wires, man. That was really gung-ho on making sure these things were wound, but boy, I wasn't smart about making sure they were kept away from the tube pins. I just wire them right up next to the pins. So I'm gonna do better with my layouts and my wiring. But well, this is gonna conclude this part of the build. I'll pull the amp back up here in just a minute. We'll figure out what the last move is here before we kind of like, you know, dive into phase 2. I'm trying to do here. I still need to still need to do the tone stack unwiring, but for now, it ain't a big deal. For now, we just need to get these freaking pins desoldered, man. Oh my gosh, there's so much freaking solder on some of these pins. It's almost kind of a silliness to try and keep using them. They're bad, man. They're really bad. Ugh. But, and the tube is just a little bit loose. Some of these sockets are kind of sloppy, so you know, I'm wondering if it's just a smarter idea to just, you know, replace the tube. So, in the meantime, I gotta get this caulk out of here. What the heck? I'm gonna cut myself. Dang, I didn't think painter's caulk was going to be so on it. Gee. Well, I might just pull the can cap out anyways. Clean this up so it's not too boogered up looking later on. I am just scratching it up, but better than having all the caulk stains. So, and caulk is just a really unprofessional thing to do. A real beginner thing to do is to use painter's caulk to try and hold down your caps, your filter caps and stuff. So, lesson learned, huh? Ouch. What the heck I was doing here? What in the what? So, yeah, we gotta redo these. That out of here. I'm kind of ripping at it a little bit, probably a little more than I should, but it's just, there's a time and a place. So let me put a thermistor in there. So there we get a little bit more of a eyeball on what we're doing here. I'm going to leave the neutral connected so I know when I go back where the hot's going to go. And you can see there's no center tap for the heaters. And looks like I'm bleeding my own blood now. So yeah, we got this thing kind of shredded up and pretty quick, I'd say, for the next phase of the build here we're going to do. And so, yeah, I'm going to clean this out a little bit and continue on. Okay, we're back. And once again, here's the schematic we're going to go off of. It's the Friedman Dirty Shirley. I know earlier I was saying for a Marshall, but I would say it's the same thing basically. There's some different values in the Dirty Shirley than the Marshall, but it's basically real close to it. So that's why I thought it might be a fun build to try and do this and see if what these values sound like. They are very close to a Marshall, but not exactly. And so, you know, as you can see, we got some of the guts hanging out here. And I was just trying to kind of look what might be the best layout in here, and what's already here to work with, and what there's already some transformer bolts sticking through here I could use if I wanted to, which isn't a bad idea. And then if I didn't have enough room over here, I have some of these guys, which are cool, these little connector, which allow you to kind of do a little turret next to the tube if you want to. So I could use that, or I could go ahead and just use a little more. As you can see, I got two preamp tubes over here, one right here. I think I'm gonna, since this is the input, this will be my first. This will be V1, V2, phase inverter, and then power amp tubes. I'm gonna go ahead and keep in the solid state converter plug just to keep this baby tight, nice and tight. But you never know. I don't know, maybe this bigger board might be a better way to go. There's plenty of room on it. There's plenty of, I might have to dig out some fresh holes. But I don't know, I feel like I'm wasting a lot of turret for this amp when I have other builds coming up that I have planned. Got some other stuff too we could experiment with. We had to, you know, this kind of stuff. I also have, rather than using the F&Ts, the radial, is it radial or axial? I always forget. Anyways, I have one of these CE manufacturing caps. It's still good. It's a 40-40-30, but it's 450, 400, 350. So, you know, this has to be carefully used in the voltage ladder, else you could blow it up at 350 volts if you didn't connect it correctly. So I'm thinking about using this or getting another one, ordering another one, so I don't have to run these filter caps some stations somewhere like I did before. I can just use I can use a clean silver cap, and they look nice and they fit the look of the amp, and then I can use these for something else, something down the road. Get all this stuff cleaned off of them. It was funny to use caulk. What was I thinking? It worked all right, I guess. Probably not forever, but so yeah. So we'll see. We'll see about using this. I forgot that it went down to 350, but yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get our voltages whittled down enough to use that. But you know, I've got some other kinds of turrets too. In the end, we could always use one of these kind. I have never put these to use. These cheap ones. You know, they could go in here for a little. always use a little bit of both too. Look, I've got 2 of them. So there's more here if I needed it. I've got a little chunk of piece if I need to, or some other stuff. So this thing's kind of starting to take shape a little bit. Kind of like the turret right in the middle like that. I don't know if I'm going to end up using this hum balance pot or not. Being that it is it's going to be fixed bias, I might just take this out and this will be the spot for the bias adjustment, which would be kind of cool. So, and this set does have 2 can caps, and you know, I don't think I'm going to use them both, although it's not a bad idea. But man, they're not cheap. These CE manufacturing caps are, you know, they're between like 38 and 58 bucks each. So they're not cheap. They're cool and they're convenient, but they ain't cheap. Excuse me. All right, so, and you know, this shield that they always used is cool. Part of me wishes I could drill some holes in it. That would be most beneficial to have, and be able to drill a couple holes in here so I could run some wires through. Because it kind of sucks having to go all the way around the corner of this thing. But I do like that Stromberg-Carlson took means to protect the inside of the amp from interference and whatnot. And so I think we're on our way. I think we got a good little start here. We can see what we got to work with. See what we're looking at. You know, there's just some shoddy wiring that needs to be addressed. But we're gonna get this. We will definitely get this handled and done. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to having you along with me. And hopefully we can make this Friedman Dirty Shirley by PD the Pitbull. We're gonna see if this works. We're gonna see if we can make this come alive. Not all of it's gonna be the same. I'm not putting in the effects loop switch. There's gonna be a couple little different things, but not much. I'm gonna stick to what we got here, and hopefully we'll see if it works. What we get in the end. All right. Bring it on me. All right. All right, anything else needs to be gored out? I think we're good. There's nothing much left of this thing. All right. gonna go ahead and pull the lid off this thing again. Just put it up for now so it doesn't get scratched or damaged. I spent a little bit of time making this thing look like it does. This amp was pretty trashed. So yeah, I put anodized red on there to get it to look like that, man. It took me a while to get the cover of this thing looking sharp. I like it. I like the way it turned out, black and red like that. Okay, oops. Let's get this bad boy back up here, see what we're looking at now. This chassis, it's held up okay. It's held up okay. There was some definite work I had to do to it in the beginning to make it look like anything. There was a lot of rust. I had to prime it like crazy. And these tube sockets, boy, I'm just not feeling super confident in them. But I guess in the end, it's not a big deal just to take them out and start fresh. I mean, shit. I got new tube sockets, so. I mean, look at that thing. Ooh, God. Hey, God. Did I do that? I don't think I did that, man. I think somebody else must have been in this amp because, boy, that is just fucking ugly. My goodness, man. That was a good thing I pulled it out, man. So, let's see what we got in the old socket box. Got a lot of different stuff in here. Looks like stock is good. Stock is good. Some of these are used as well, but oops. We'll just go ahead and throw a couple used ones on here. The finish ain't looking so hot. I don't want to use these because I'm going to use them for my next build. I do got some more coming in the mail. Alright, so we're going to install this bad boy. Got this black hardware. I like it. I think I am just going to come in over the top like that rather than come up from below. Yeah. Couple of washers. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun. I've been wanting to do this Dirty Shirley build, but I didn't want to dedicate an entire build to it. So, I'm losing shit. So, one of these little, conversion amps is a great idea to try it out on. And, I hate to say this, but frankly, I'm starting to kind of lose a little bit of my mojo for these PA heads and what I was feeling when I first got into it, and how cool and nostalgic they felt to me, and how beautiful and I don't know the word I'm looking for, just nostalgic and of a cool era when things were built with pride, and men went off to work every day to build these transformers and these parts in these American factories, and this stuff was really well made, and these amps were used in schools and churches and other grocery stores, and they were put to use out there in the world. And to me, that has something to it that I enjoy. The the reminiscing of what was, and to be able to take one of these old amps and suddenly repurpose it is such a cool thing to me, because a lot of these amps have just sat in people's basements and garages and estates and businesses, and they just sat in the corner in a basement somewhere, and somebody found them and went, wait a second, this is a tube amp, man, this could be worth something. They throw it up on eBay. Sure enough, they get $400 or $500 for it. I try not to pay that much for these amps, but and that's how it goes down. They get discovered in some basement somewhere, in some school or grocery store or something, and next thing you know, somebody says, hey, that could be worth some money, and they put it out, and sure enough, people like me buy them up. And there's just something special to that. I like it, and I like the fact that they were easy to work on, that the builds weren't overly complicated, and you could learn from doing this. And that's how I learned, was just taking these old amps, spend a couple $100 on them or $100 on them, and mess around with them. Don't shock yourself, but you can find out a lot just by taking one of these old amps apart by yourself and getting the schematic and following the schematic and learning how to read the schematic. And you can learn a lot that way, and that's really how I did it. And I'm not saying I know everything. I hardly know anything, but I know what I like to do. This is what I love to do. And whether I know a lot about it or not, I'm still going to come out here and mess around with these things. I love guitar playing, and I love amplifiers. I love killer tone. And so if I can take one of these things and manipulate one to get some tone out of it, it's a fun accomplishment. It feels good to take one of these old amps that sat in some dusty basement and suddenly listen to it scream, or play something beautiful and clean, or just have a repurpose in its life at this day and age. To me, that's really special, and I think people take that for granted, and I hope more people see the benefit of these old amps and what they can teach us. For those of us who are wanting to learn in this way, and how does this stuff work? Well, okay, I got my tube sockets. Now, how do they go together? What do these wires do? Where do they go? That's the fun of it. Like, where do I start? And you pick up things and you learn things from people, and you get hints and books. And I've been working a lot with AI, teaching me about amp theory, mostly about the math. So when I'm too lazy to do the math myself, I'll go to AI and have it do it for me. But that's just that's a cheating way to do things, and I really gotta start depending on the math a little bit more than I do. And but I'm still having fun doing what I do. I'm going to do what I do, whether I know what I'm doing or not. So, fuck it. All right. So, came across these in my stash. I got a 32 and a 32 and a 16 and a 16. So I'm going to mount the two 16s over here near the preamp. And then I'm going to run these 32s back here. And then probably somewhere inside the amp we'll run like another, like a 47 or maybe an 80 or something. Whatever else needs to be can reside inside. But these should work out pretty good right here, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and get these mounted up. And we'll just go ahead and get them ready, I suppose. I can't think why we shouldn't. Put in, get them shored up, get them ready to go. I don't usually use these multi-caps very often, just because they're kind of expensive. So, but they are super handy as far as, you know, saving space. I like that. It keeps for me having using painter's colic and goop. So we'll get these in here. I wish I had two black ones instead of a blue one and a black one. I like the way they look when they're black. Never was a fan of that bright blue look. I always wondered why they never made them black, like in Marshalls and stuff. You see the blue cans. I always just thought that looks so dumb. Make them black. Black is metal. Black is cool. So. Okay, fast forward a little bit, and hope that doesn't bug anybody. And you used to drive me nuts when I'd watch guys working on amps and they'd skip some steps and come back. But anyways, let me just show you what I went through here. I did add the can caps, the 16-16 and the 32-32. I snuck in a little shrink wrap around these OT plate and supply wires, and I added some of the little grommets. Stromberg-Carlson didn't add the grommets to their amps, and I noticed the transformers don't line up right over the holes either. So you know, look out, eventually that's gonna wear against that metal edge, and you know, that's bad news, man. I mean, if that 120 breaks loose into the chassis, it could be disastrous. So I want to go through and add the little rubber boots in here. I'm not sure about this one because I've already got it wired up, don't I? But we'll see. But that's pretty crucial, man. I mean, those primaries coming right up against the metal right there. And this wire is, you know, this is from the 50s. And it's extremely brittle. And so a lot of times when you deal with these old irons, man, you're dealing with some seriously brittle wiring. And you have to be careful. So basically what I did is I wired up the power IEC connector with a little ground right here off to the side. I ran the neutral into the PT, and then the other side goes to the hot goes to the fuse and out to the switch, and from the switch to the thermistor, and from the thermistor back into the power transformer. So that's one thing I did behind the scenes. I wired and shrunk wrapped all that in, got that all set up and ready to go. Pretty easy. I kind of twisted the wires and backed them up against the edge so they were kind of out of place. I'm going to put a little clip in here to hold them in place so this thermistor can't move. I added a little preamp tube tack strip thing if I need to here. And yeah, so just a little bit of shrink wrapping and just kind of pulling things out, getting things ready. I was also trying to observe my grounding scheme in here, and I got my first one done for the power. I see there's one right here with this little, I don't know if you can see it from the camera angle, but there's a little 3-clip riveted in here, which is grounded. So that could be for output. And then input, phase inverters got one. I don't have one for power, so we're gonna have to establish a little bit of a grounding node scheme here, so so we get it all right. And yeah, so we'll get that. And these wires here too, I wanted to shorten the yellow ones and extend the red ones out a little bit, because boy, these are stretched to their nubbits, and that's bad. I mean, it's right under the other one. It's not pretty. It's way too short, and these ones are way too long. So I got the turret strip out, the turret board ready to go. I got it marked inside here, so this is gonna go basically like that, a little bit above. And we'll use some of the tag boards, whatever you call these things. They're pretty handy. But so that's where we're at right now, and let's need to establish something now for the heaters. And I was probably going to just either use the stud from the transformer. Now that should not be used normally as a ground, but sometimes I do hang things off of those. As long as it's not being used as a ground, I can always use it as a connector for something else. So I just kind of, you know, and usually they fit right over the top. Actually, these screw right on usually. So but if you end up pushing it too hard, then you can break the little bakelite thing or whatever that is. These things come out, they come apart pretty easily. They're kind of cheap. But so that's kind of where we're at on this, and that's what I need to do. Is I need to establish the grounding spots. We need to drill for the turret board, and set up a special node for the heaters so we can begin wiring up the heaters. And so in the meantime, we'll take some time to clean this up. I'll add a little, let's see if I can do it now. Some of these wires I have folded up and out of the way because these are 70 volt attachments for the old speaker wiring, so you could series a bunch of cabinets together, or it was just kind of like a heavier supply for speaker loads. And so normally we just cut that back, put a little piece of shrink wrap over it. I always just leave a little bit at the tip, a little bit at the top open, so I can pinch it closed. sealing it off. Sure it's good and tight. Call that good. And so what I'll do is I'll put the little rubber boot in here so we're not scraping. Oh, that edge is sharp too. Why the heck, man? All the technology in Stromberg-Carlson and their products and durability, and the one thing they did not do was account for that. I mean, I assumed a lot of these things were meant to be just, you know, you turn them on and forget them. Nobody's messing with them. They're not supposed to be moved around or taken on tour or anything. They just sat in some grocery store or in some church or school or something. You know, they weren't probably accounting for these things getting jostled around too much, so they didn't, you know, they think, you know, I was going to put these boots in here. But I think it's just a smart thing to do. You can get these like Antique Electronic Supply, or excuse me, Amplified Parts sells them. These little rubber grommets seal off these holes. See, look how nice that is now. Look how happy those are. They're not all angry. They're all bumped up against that edge. Push that down inside there for a nice clean look, like I did over here. I'm not too big on using this red shrink wrap. I don't know. We'll see. It seems to act a little different than the black does too, in the way that it shrinks to me. I don't know. We'll see. You can see I got some tape on here for this plate that I made for the switch, and it's the tape was only put there to hide the daylight under the piece of pick guard that I used. A lot of times I take old pick guards and I'll use them behind some of the openings, let's see, like these little spots right here or something like that. If there's a big opening on a chassis, you can use a little piece of pick guard to kind of fill the gap, and it's nice and solid. Usually you can just you can put a jack in it if you need to or whatever. So I like to use old pieces of pick guard for various things on chassis work. That's what I did here, but I cut it a little short, and after the time it took me to do it, I didn't want to go back, so I just put a little bit of tape to hide the daylight in there. So that's what the tape is for. It's very unprofessional, I know, but so I'm gonna go ahead and probably put the power ground right here, which is gonna ground the center tap for the rectifier, the heaters, or the filament, and then it will also, it'll be the power for the cathode or the fixed bias. Any other power we need to run over here can safely be done fairly easily. The 16 cap is over here. It can be grounded in its environment. So I think we're kind of off to a good idea here as far as what we want to do. Phase inverters already set up with a nice big tag strip of things ready for a long tail pair and some, you know, other things, negative feedback. It's going to be a little bit of a run here. So we're going to come in to the input, and we're going to hit V1 right here, and then we're going to go back over here towards the back of the amp for V2, and then we got to run back around over here to the phase inverter. So there's going to be a little bit of a wiring thing going on here we're going to have to deal with, hopefully in a pleasant manner, but figure it out. That's the fun of what we do here, is just figuring out the puzzle that is this amplifier in the end, and how it's going to be put together. And you know, our voltage ladder and whatnot, we'll get a B plus going here soon. Pretty sure it's going to be, I mean, it is what we want to make it, but the other one, simply taking what it's offering, the B plus was right around 485. So I'm assuming these are going to be fairly close to that as well. And I do have the schematic for the Signet 33, so we can refer to that for voltages and other things too when it comes time. So thing I hate about these stiff wires, man, is I don't like to manipulate them too much. I don't like to take them and bend them into right angles and things like that. They don't do good. This old covering, you bend these things at a right angle, it's gonna snap open for sure. So generally, I think if I was smart, I would probably create some sort of a node thing here for each one of them and then run fresh wiring everywhere rather than try and use this old wire out into the chassis somewhere, because it's only asking for that type of thing to happen. But me as I am, I just start doing stuff and it is what it is, and I'm learning lessons. But we'll see. I thought maybe I could get this to kind of work like this under the turret board, nice and clean. It'll be for the plates, power tube plates, and OT supply. Let's see. But yeah, so what I was saying is I don't like to bend these wires, man, in right angles, you know, so it looks all symmetrical. And so a lot of times I have to just kind of make the run what it is, make the chase as natural to the wire as I can without, you know, having manipulated the wire too much. Even this is kind of an interesting little thing going on here. I can use this little tag strip to kind of use to be my little, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to run to this little tag strip with my plates and OT supply, and then from there I'll run my plates around town. So that's what we'll do on that. Meanwhile, it'll be hidden under here. So I think we got a plan there. Heaters. We need to start a little spot for a network. We can create a little node spot. And my ground is going to be right here. Probably want to try and keep my heaters off to the side a little bit. Cut these back, bring it over here. And I'm set up. Well, we'll see. We'll see what it might be like running these heaters through the power tubes first and then out, because I'd be going this way through the amp. Normally, I usually start. It really probably doesn't even matter, so I can't see why. You know, we're just daisy chaining, and so as long as we try to keep the leads as short as we can. You know, maybe we could even run these heaters. We'll start over here. We'll build a little jumper system so these two come out for the heaters, and then we can run this heater wire along right here, all along here. Power the light, bring it around, ending up here at the final preamp tube. I think that might be kind of a nice way to build our heater layout. I think that's going to work out. So So yeah, we're gonna do some drilling here, and see what happens. Okay, a little bit further along, not too much, but a little. As you can see, I drilled out the holes, and I put the tag strips in for the heaters, and I put these little mini tag strips in for the grounding of the power section. I added some of the little rubber grommets here as best as I could. I haven't gotten to this part yet, but I will. This one I just started. I got it cut, so I'm going to try and put it in there with a sliced end on it, so I don't have to undo all these. I'll just try to do the best I can for now. And you can see I got the turret board in there. All I did was drill the holes out, put the hardware in. I used these little guys for standoffs that you get from Amplified Parts, number 6. And they work real good. I use a 1/2 inch. And you can see I ran the output transformer plates and supply to this little node thing I got going right here, which will run off to those in the end, but hopefully that's not too close to present any noise or anything on the board, but we'll see how we go. We'll see how we do. So that's where it's at, and you can see the new top. It's got some extra silver on top now. I'm going to do something right here to this one, beauty it up. So I went ahead and did scoot forward a little bit. Last night I came out and did some work, and I just didn't really want to, I didn't feel like filming myself. But I went ahead and installed the heater wiring and a few other things. I got the plates going and some B+ happening. But I'm going to get rid of this bathtub resistor for a well win I have on order. I also worked on the output section, the output jack, switchable ohms output jack, and I had a little support clip for the power wire so the thermistor doesn't really move at all if any of these wires get moved around too much. But other than that, yeah, we scooted ahead a little bit. I can show you what I did under here real fast. It ain't pretty, but it's gonna change. I really don't like using the bathtub resistors either if I can avoid it. I have some goofiness going here too, which is kind of shielding I need to finish up. But you can see how it's going here, and a little bit of wire coming out for some B+. And technically we could check some voltages if we wanted to. I put a little LED right here in this old speaker output hole in the back, so there's a little bit of a light that comes on in the back. But I got my cathodes grounded in here, you can see. So yeah, did a little bit of work last night, a couple hours probably, and that's where we're at. As you can see here, I've got some more of the power section going, laid out underneath the distribution for plate voltage and whatnot. So this will all be under the turret board, hidden pretty good. Should be. And straighten out some lines here a little bit. And yeah, so that's where I'm at thus far. Feeling pretty clean. It's looking all right. So all right, we're gonna put in this little bypass cap. Seems to be altering the tone stack. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there, and that's what I'm soldering up right now. Okay, so we're getting close to working on the tone stack here, and I installed the little, there's a bypass cap on the cathode follower tail 100K, so I'm assuming that's working with some high mids, possibly. So I took the cover shield off, and I'm deciding now that I'm gonna go ahead and redo the tone stack I have in here, which looks like it's a little off. So right now I'm just I wired some shielded cable from over here from V2 through to the tone stack network, to this little connecting spot, and so now I'm going to go ahead and just take apart this tone stack and get it ready for something a little newer and cleaner. So that's where we're at. Some funny wiring here to get this shielded cable to stay where I want it. They don't ever kind of bend and stay. You gotta kind of manipulate them. had some ragtag pots in here I had to use because I wanted to use these skulls, and they only accept a particular shaft size, so I had to make sure I had all the pots the shaft size that met the requirement. And so I have kind of a ragtag group of pots in here for my box of stuff, and I can tell the way I did this tone stack, the floor was just not up to par. Early work, and it just needs to be cut. Leave that one in there, that was good. So go ahead and leave that 33K resistor in here that I have across right here. That's a good little spot for that network to begin. So I like to use the orange drops in my tone stacks. They're a little brighter, a little sharper, or so they say, or I've noticed. Jupiters are real creamy. Mallory's are real good, just around, you know, all around use. Orange caps tend to be just a little bit on the bright side, just a tad bit on the bright side of things, in my opinion. So I kind of had a ragtag group of protection going. I use some of the wire wrap from some of these old vintage PAs. If it's still workable enough, I'll use it, because I like this vintage protection. Wire wrap, shrinking, whatever. So, all right, so what do we got going here? I think I need to label my pots. I like to have them labeled. I know what I'm working with, right? I think if we got a just Seymour Duncan pot. Okay. We got a 500 on the master volume. I'm assuming this is a 1 meg on the base. 25 on the mid. And a 250 on the treble. Let's hope so. Some better stuff I can use. Okay, we're just getting some grounding done here in the tone stack. I'm running from the mid pot. It's kind of tricky. Just doesn't quite fit. I hate it when that happens. Let's see what we can do here. What the heck? Can't find the hole. There it is. Let's cut off the nubbits. Pot's loose. So that wasn't very clean, but we'll just see how we can make this look a little better. Alright, next we're going to do a piece of shielded cable, which we are going to run from the master volume out to the coupling cap to the phase inverter. So we're moving right along on this Dirty Shirley build, if that's really what this is, giving it the best shot. So I have this little schematic here. We're going to see what we get. Okay, we're into this thing, checking voltages. I had to go through a couple silly little things, not really worth filming, but immediately upon checking this thing's pulse, everything looked pretty clean. We got about 467 on the B plus. I'm looking at about 455 on the plates, 452 on the screens, -50 on the grids. Not much noise. Bias is working good. Go ahead and power this thing up. See where we land on the bias. Now these, remember, they only measure plate to cathode, so you have to compensate for the screen voltage. So sometimes it could be, your number might be a little bit higher than what's showing on here. Bringing this thing up to 120. All right, there we go. I don't have the LED working on it, but there we go. See, we're dialing it up. Got the balance and the bias tuned up, so you can adjust the balance, make them go in or out, or just get them lined up together. And then you can bias them up or down, get them cold or get them hot, whatever you like. I'm running at about 38 right now. Feeling like that's going to be my sweet spot at the moment for safety zones. But let's see what we got here. We're still where we thought we were. I'm getting 457 on the plates. I'm getting 454 on the screens. -50 on the grids. So yeah, this thing is fairly quiet. I mean, we can go ahead and see if we can get any tone out of it. This cabinet kind of rattles, so if it sounds buzzy, it's because the buckles on the speaker cabinet kind of buzz and rattle. But let's see what we get here. That's working. All right, so there's a couple things still we're shooting for here, and some things I didn't do on the schematic I wanted to point out. Got my favorite libation, and so on this, I did not so far, I don't know if you can see this or not, I did not run this 1 meg to ground off the master volume pot. When it comes in from the treble, it shows it going through a little effects unit and effects thing in out, and it shows it with a mystery cap or mystery resistor going into the master pot, and a 1 meg to ground right there. And it also shows a 220K to ground right there before the gain. So I haven't done those two yet, and I think I'm going to try that out and see if it tames the beast a little bit. But so far I'm digging this thing. There's no negative feedback in it right now. I'm running it without negative feedback, so there's no presence circuit. I just ran the tail of the 10K and the 0.1 cap to a 4.7 to ground right there. It doesn't show you that it's supposed to go to ground right there, or however you're connecting it to your negative feedback loop. So we're gonna discharge the caps and get this thing into safety mode. I just like to go around, be safe, kind of hit all the majors in here. Go around, come back to the plates, just so I know. I don't have to call my mom when I shock my stuff. So, I'm getting happy with this thing. It's come together pretty well. I cheated a little bit here and there with some grounding things, maybe some grounding no-nos, but the amp sounded fairly quiet. And one thing that's bugging me is these heater wires. I wish I would have ran them a little bit more along the chassis or the wall here, instead of so tight like I always do. It bugs me that I run my heater wires so tight like that all the time. I gotta stop doing that. And there's a few flying wires here that are bugging me too. This grid wire is standing a little too open right there. Just waiting. And there's, I still have to hook up the LED, but it's way over here. And I don't really want to draw off any of these tubes if I don't have to. So normally I would have put my LED light right here. Excuse me. Now it's a video. Right where my output my heater wires come out. I usually try to run my LED right there, or my light source fairly close to that. But as this is, the LED's way over here because the Stromberg-Carlson light's right here, and I tried to preserve that. So I either have to jumper off one of these tubes, which I tried to do already, and it was just really crowded and busy. Because you can see I've done a little point-to-point thing here on each of these. It's kind of a hybrid of a turret and a point-to-point thing. But it turns out all the filtering worked great. It's very quiet, and I'm fairly satisfied. It's still a little chaotic as far as the wiring goes, but I'm getting there. I can tell I'm starting to think a little bit more along the lines of, getting things looking really clean and tidy and orderly. So, we're going to keep going through. I'm going to go ahead and add these and see what happens. This 1 meg off the master and this 220 off the gain. I'm assuming that's just, they're just trying to shave some juice off right there. And I'm curious to see, because just like all my other amps, it just gets really hot really fast. And my voltage ladder is not bad. My first node, I got 455, second node, 451, third node, 419, fourth node, 388, fifth node, 371, and I'm stepping down from there from plate resistors. The 371 is a little higher than I want it to be at this point, but I think we can get things kind of worked out and tamed down. I pretty much followed the schematic note for note, and except for what we were talking about here, and I didn't do the effects loop or any of the switching that this shows. But as far as all the caps and resistor values and coupling caps, and it's just a standard Marshall style tone stack. And same thing with the phase inverter. So really the bigger deal was it was running the 0.47s. Both first two gain stages run 0.47s and 2.7K resistors, so that has an interesting little curve on it. So and it's got some thrust too. Surprisingly, this amp's got some junk in the trunk. So I can't wait to get this thing dialed in and see what she is. All right. Well, if you hung out this far, I really appreciate it. And just want to say this was a fun build to do. It was pretty quick, and I'm so happy the way this thing turned out. I'm going to build one from the ground up, I think, at some point. I really like the way this came out. Very, very natural and tubey. It doesn't use a cold clipper. The gain structuring is very smooth, and I just like the way this came out, and I was yeah, really satisfied. I think there's still a little more tweaking that could be done to it. For instance, I'm not even using the negative feedback, and it still sounds pretty damn good. Sorry. But yeah, so, for the Stromberg-Carlson build, I think, turned out okay. Sounds pretty good. I'm going to do a few more things. I did add the resistors that I was talking about, the 1 meg and the 220. There's the 1 meg and there's the 220. And I didn't put in the mystery resistor either. But there's still a little oscillation going on somewhere, a squeal or a sharp transient that happens, that I could probably go and add some type of a snubber or some type of a presence cap or something, or what am I trying to say? Some type of a bypass where I can get a little bit more of the frequencies tamed down and get some of those transient attack chirps to go away. And sometimes that's just by adding a resistor here or there. So that's where we stand on it. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was kind of boring and redundant, but what's going on here? Got a loose one. It was kind of boring and redundant, but if you hung through, I appreciate that. And this was the Stromberg-Carlson SAU-33 into a Friedman Dirty Shirley build. And also wanted to say too that I really don't have any experience with the Friedman whatsoever. I've heard them online, and I've seen them at Guitar Center, and I've heard them, and I think they sound amazing. And you know, I wouldn't mind having one, but I've already got 2 EVHs that are PCB, and I'm um, just not really into going that way at this point. Doesn't mean I won't someday, but I just was seeing this around, and I was noticing that some of the values were a little different than other builds, and I thought, well, let's give this one a shot and see what it sounds like. And I was very impressed, and I highly recommend this build if someone can pull it off and get it right. I'm not sure that I did exactly, but I came fairly close. And I know the video doesn't do justice to the sound. I know that when I watched back the videos of my guitar playing, it doesn't, the camera doesn't capture the tone like I wish it did. I need to come up with some type of a recording system where I can better accurately you know, present these amplifiers in the tonal frequencies they need to be heard in, because I think my phone kind of compresses, and so does YouTube. Anyways, have a great day, guys. Bye.